Welcome to this QR code introduction where we'll take a look at QR codes, what they are, and how we can leverage their power to benefit our organisations. Just a little bit about me. I spent 28 years working for BT, initially starting life as an apprentice, driving little yellow vans like this one, before ending up as a manager working with various training and development teams, then becoming a software trainer with another company. In 2019, after a takeover by a Canadian company, 95% of the team were invited to discover other opportunities. So I started a company developing online training packages, which, thanks to COVID, was doing quite well, until February 2021, when my spine sprung a leak. This was called a cerebral spinal fluid, or CSF leak, otherwise called intracranial hypertension. And it drained fluid from my skull. Don't worry, there's no medical images. However, I looked a little bit like this. It was like I was drunk when I wasn't lying down. I was definitely in need of a brain plumber. The spinal leak wasn't like Tom and Jerry with water pouring out of my back, but my brain did sag, and I ended up being taken into A&E with 2 brain hemorrhages. My neurologist was brilliant. He initially wanted to inject my own blood into my spine. This was called a blood patch, and it would hopefully stop the leak. But he told me there was an alternative if I could drink lots of coffee. I asked how much. He said 12 cups of coffee a day, and you will need to lay flat for a month. I'm sure I can do 12 cups of coffee a day. However, drinking 12 cups of coffee whilst lying in bed looks a lot like this in your head. As my brain started to fix itself, presumably trying to work its way around the blood clots, aided by just a little too much coffee, I started to have some amazing dreams, initially recorded on my phone for my wife to type up. For therapy, I started to type the story, which grew into a novel as I recovered. The dreams revolved around some of the characters I'd created for the Nottingham Comic Convention, MCon, 4 years earlier. I thought it might just be a comic. Ruby Rowe and her twin sister Rena Okra, based on my twin daughters, were destined to save the universe one day before yesterday, whilst rescuing accidental time travellers. Imagine if your time machine broke down, a bit like the AA and the RAC, or Auto Recovery. They'll be waiting to rescue you. Being time travellers, they know you're coming. The Godot Orange is a world of real places mixed up with fictional events and fictional science that's already starting to become real. I've created the genre of science friction, where fact feels fake and fiction rubs raw on the realms of reality. Now, you may wonder what all this has to do with QR codes. Well, you may want to use them for your printed publications, for instance, a book, a magazine, or simply a poster. One place I've used them is on the cover of my first book. I've also used them as part of the story, as I wanted to create a science fiction novel that was fun to read with a parallel universe of entertainment. I wanted to create a book with a theme tune for each chapter. I wanted music, movies, artwork, animations, interactivity, even poetry. I wanted a computer voice to guide the reader through this parallel universe of fantasy and entertainment. But there's so much more that you can do with QR codes. Now, it's quite likely that you already know the answer to this question, but just in case, you may still be asking, what is a QR code, and why do I need one? Well, a quick response, QR code, is a curious pattern of shapes that can contain information to help your readers and potentially customers. It was invented in 1994 by the Japanese company Denso Wave, part owned by Toyota. When visitors scan the code with their mobile device using the iPhone camera app or Google Lens or a QR code scanner app, you can provide them with information immediately. It can be used to store information about many things, such as a link to a page on your website, a way of taking payment, to simply display some text for your visitor. Launch your visitor's email app with a pre-populated message for them to send. Maybe you might want to enter your phone number in their phone call dialer app. And maybe you want to generate a text message for them to send, or create a V card or a Me card. Provide a map location for where you want them to go to. Launch Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube to your page. Share Wi-Fi access for your visitors. Distribute a calendar event, or link to a feedback survey site. Now, QR codes can be quite simple and they can be quite small. However, complex ones have to be larger to be readable. Complex QR codes may need to be no smaller than 2.5 centimeters on screen and 3.5 centimeters when printed. Simple link QR codes can be smaller, at least 1.3 centimeters on screen and 1.6 centimeters when printed. It's really important that you test them out in multiple environments and multiple devices before you actually deploy them. Testing with iOS and Android devices would be, in my view, a minimum way of testing them. Let's take a quick look at where you might want to use a QR code. For an author, the obvious choice is inside your book or on the back cover and the spine in my case, subject of course to the size constraints we were talking about. For any kind of business that you have, it could be that you want to provide t-shirts or maybe a mug, postcards perhaps. I've got fridge magnets and I've got key fobs. There's business cards. We've got coffee or beer mats, compliment slips, and then there's rulers as well. And there's probably many other possibilities beside that I haven't included on here. But it's just to give you a few ideas of the sorts of things that you could use a QR code for. Now, in Lady Adie's book, Successful Business Networking Online, you can see some examples of how QR codes are used at the front of Lady's book so that you can make contact with her directly and also by conference call attendees like Ian Shapiro, Darren Gaheen or Keith Seward, who've added their contact QR codes to their web conference backgrounds. Now, we're going to have a quick look at how to create 3 useful types of QR code using a free tool at qrcodemonkey.com. We'll create a simple URL target. We'll have a look at creating a V-card, which is a contact record for mobile devices, and also we'll produce a pre-populated email for mobile device email apps like Outlook and Gmail. Let's go to https://www.qrcodemonkey.com, and what I'll do is I'll just bring that up on my browser. Just bring that into screen on view so that you can see it. The first thing we need to do at qrcode-monkey.com is we need to put the URL that you want the visitor to go to. Now I'm using something called Linktree, and so I've got all my contact details on Linktree, and that's quite a useful thing to have anyway. So let me just type that in there. So that's the TimeTech team, and that's how you contact me and the rest of the TimeTech team or content for the book. Now also what you can do is you can change the appearance of your QR code. This isn't the one that you're going to get. This will change just at the point where you press submit to all of the changes that you make. But we can change the colors of these blocks. So I'm going to go into here, and I'm just for the moment I'm just going to make my QR code a red QR code. Obviously it's important to make sure that you have enough contrast in your QR codes for the background that they're on. So I'm just going to change the eye color here, and I'm going to choose a different color. So let's go and choose, let's say for instance, let's have a nice green color there. And what we'll do is we're going to add a logo image. Now in the middle of your QR code you could have your own corporate logo, so that's what we're going to do now. So I'm just going to access my my local drive. So let's add the logo image and upload an image. So let's just go to there, and we've got let's have a look. Here's my the logo that I want to appear. You can see I've had a go at creating the QR code already in this view. So let's just go and add my logo. Now I've got a logo that's 150 pixels high. So that gives you an idea. Well, it's 285 pixels wide, 147 pixels high, roughly 150 pixels high. So that will fit nicely into the middle. So we'll click on open, and that will upload my image into the middle of this when I create the QR code. Now, I want to remove any of these blocks from behind my logo, so I've got a nice plain white rectangle behind that. And then we're going to scroll down just a little bit further, and we're going to customize the design, because I like that QR code, but I like it to be a little bit more elegant than that. So you've got a number of choices that you can make with QR Code Monkey. I've chosen this because it has got a larger number of functional changes that you can make. So I'm going to select that shape that's going to change the block edges or ends to little curves, and I like my eyes to look like eyes, so I'm going to have those two shapes for the iframe shape. And that's all the changes that you can make, and what I'll do is create QR code, clicking on the green button there. And here we go, is a QR code that's going to take you, when you scan it with your QR code reader, to my link tree. And I can download that PNG just by clicking on there. It takes a few seconds, and I can save it to my local drive. Click on download PNG, and your QR code is now being generated as a PNG. And this will just take a few seconds to do, and will then appear at the bottom of your browser. If you're using Google Chrome, or if you're using a different browser, it will appear on screen with a little message to tell you where to download it from. So I'll just save it to my local drive. Okay, so let's just get rid of that pop-up for a minute. I'll just drag the QR code generator out of the way just for a moment, and you can see that we've saved my link tree file to my local files. And what I could do in PowerPoint is I could paste the image on screen. I could add a shape down the side here, type in scan me, create a little triangle there to add in, and then I can select all of those objects in PowerPoint and save as a PNG. So I've got a one PNG file with the QR code, with the corporate icon in the middle of it, the colors that I want, the shapes that I want, and a little message down the side that says scan me. So that was just creating a simple QR code. We're going to have a look at a couple more now. So let me just go back to the previous slide here, and that's it. So we're going to have a look at V cards and emails as well. So let's have a quick look at the V card next. So if you have a look at the tool qrcodemonkey.com, and then you'll see that there's the V card option on this top toolbar here. And in the V card, this is the sort of the contact details that you would want people to have to be able to get hold of you. So for instance, let's pick up some sort of information. So first name is, let's have Bruce, put that in there, and last name will have Roberts, and we'll also think about what organization we are. So we'll call this Time Tech Team, there we go. And position, I'm going to be the director, and my phone number, here we go, this is my landline number there, and we've got the mobile phone number that we want to put in as well. So there's my mobile phone number, and we've got an email address here and street address and where you can contact me. And again, we can set the colors to be what we want to. We can match the colors that we had already selected in the previous QR code generation. And again, our image is already pre-selected, and our custom design settings. So now when we create a QR code, you'll see a far more complex QR code for the V card. This is going to contain so much more information than the straightforward URL did. So again, once we've generated that one, we can download the PNG. You can also save as an SVG, PDF and EPS as well, should you need to. So that was the URL, that was the V card that we've just done. And the last one, what happens if you want to have a QR code so that people will send straight to your email address? So let's select email here, and what email address do you want to go to? So I'm going to take it to bruce.roberts@wordstill.net, and we'll have the subject here being please contact me when you are free. There we go. And that's the subject line, and the message, let's have a quick message. So I'll just pop something in here, and so that's going to create an email again with the same colors that we'd selected, with your logo and with your custom design, and we're going to create the QR code, and you can see slightly different. It's still quite a complex QR code because obviously it's going to be sending an email again with multiple fields. The key elements that's in a QR code, you can see these 3 eyeballs here, but also depending on what type of QR code, you can see there's some little dots in squares, and they're data separators, and they're separating out the different fields in your QR code. So that's how to create a QR code from scratch using a free tool like this. And this is a one-shot, one-destination QR code. Let's just go back to the presentation. So this was our QR code image as a wrapped up with a little identification. You can type in anything you want to there using PowerPoint. But of course, then the question comes, once you have understood how to create a QR code, you need to have a plan about how you want it to behave. So here's our question. Do you want to have a single destination, static location, like we've just seen, or do you want to have dynamic behavior where your printed QR code destination can be changed? So a static QR code only ever goes to the same URL. A dynamic QR code can go to different URLs for a period of time depending on your choice. So you can see up at the top your single static going to one address, and down below you've got here week 1 you're going to go to one address, week 2 to a different one, and then week 3 you're going to change that as well. Now this has to be managed either by a service provider such as the QR Code Monkey, or by you on your website using a divert file. So let's take a look at how we can create a dynamic QR code that you can control yourself. Now I've sent you out a couple of documents, one of which is to ask you to prepare some images that you're going to be using in order to be able to target different locations. Sometimes images can be quite large, so just before we have a look at how to create dynamic QR codes, what I thought I'd just very quickly show you something is how to tidy up an image and compress it to make it really small. So I use tinypng.com. If I just drag that in, you can see I've got an image here, and that's about 1.26 megabytes. You can see down at the bottom here, 1.26 meg. So I'm going to show you how you can turn that picture into something that's a lot smaller and also a PNG file, although it can stay as a JPEG as well. So let's just drag in a browser here with tinypng.com. And all you do is you go to where you've saved your image and literally just drag it onto the target there. So I've got this picture here and I'm going to drag it onto there. And we've got a 1.2, 1.3 megabit file that is of a picture of a robot, and after a few seconds of compressing, then you'll get a much smaller version of the image. Here we go, that's finished, and we've changed the image from being 1.3 megabits file size down to 1/3 of a megabit, 339 kilobits. So it was a file saving 74%. It's a really useful tool. Just pop this out of the way. So that was tinypng.com. Just minimize that, and that was my original file image there. And from tinypng I can save this as obviously the much smaller file size. Right, so move that out of the way and come back to the presentation, and the things that you're going to need for this particular stage. Now they listed in the document that I sent out. but you will need a few applications for this. So to start off with, you're going to need Notepad or a simple text editor. Nothing complex. Don't need to have Microsoft Word or anything like that. But you just need to be able to make some text changes to a file or the text that I'm going to give to you. You will need your own website in order to be able to do this. It's either using the services of a third-party provider like the QR Code Monkey, or you use your own website. So in this case, I'm going to be using my own website, something like Ionos 101 or Squarespace or something like that. You'll also need a file transfer protocol application, and I use FileZilla, and there's a link in the document that I've sent out for you as well. You'll need a graphics tool. You could use Photoshop if you wanted to, but I tend to use PowerPoint for simple stuff because it's very easy to use and everybody's got it and everybody knows roughly how to use PowerPoint at least. And you've got no extra skills you need to learn for photo editing. You'll need to have access to a free QR code generator, QR Code Monkey in this case, and also an image file size compressor that we've just had a look at. So tinypng.com is the one I used. So that's pretty much all that you're going to need to be able to successfully manage your own variable QR codes. Now, you will need an FTP file transfer protocol program. I use, as I say, FileZilla. If you've got a Mac, you can ignore this bit, but this is quite important because it does depend on whether your PC is a 32-bit or a 64-bit PC. If you don't know the answer to that question, if you go in your Windows, you select the Start icon in the bottom left-hand corner, select System, and search for the system type in the About section. Just have a look around on that system page and it will tell you what your system type is, whether you're 32-bit or 64-bit. Just out of interest, a 64-bit PC is an x64 processor and a 32-bit PC is an x86 processor, for what it's worth. But you do need to know the difference when you're installing FileZilla or another similar applications. So what you'll also need is this bit of text. Now it looks a bit complicated, but really it is just a few lines of text here. And you'll be copying all of this text into Notepad. And I've got it already prepared for you in this document that I sent out. You'll see here the links that we've just been talking about. And this bit of code here is all that you're going to need to paste into Notepad. And in fact, if I just quickly go and start up Notepad for you, so let's just go and find Notepad. There we go. I've just done a Windows update and it's gone and removed all of my icons for some reason, which is fun that I'm going to have to sort out later. So let's just drag that out of the way and we're going to copy this text here and we're going to bring in Notepad and just literally paste it into there. Now I'll just drag this out of the way again just so that it's not obscuring what we want to see, and I'll just drag that Word document out of the way as well. And back to the PowerPoint presentation. So the bits that are in this pasted text. So you've got some items in yellow, okay, and that's the URL that you want the QR code to go to the first time that the learner who scanned the QR code comes to a page on your website where they will find this file. Now this file will create, and we're going to call it qr_divert.htm. So literally you're taking a notepad and we're going to go File, Save As, and when we save as, we're going to save it as qr_divert.htm. Okay, rather than it just being a text file, we can save as HTML files. And we'll save that to our local drive somewhere that we can find it again really easily. And this HTML file we will be saving on your website using the file transfer protocol program. But first we have to actually create, it's like a Word document, but we're going to call it, instead of a .doc, it's going to be a .htm. But in this file there's some important parts of the text that we're going to need to be able to remember to alter. Okay, so drag that over here. So as I say, the bit highlighted in yellow is going to be the URL that you want the QR code to be bumped onwards to, and this is going to be our week 1, our picture number 1. The bit highlighted in green must also contain that same URL that's in the yellow here. That must also appear in the green here. And what's going to happen is, in the background, the browser is going to read this bit, and sometimes some browsers will not automatically bounce your learner on from your scanned QR code to that URL location where you've got that picture or that PDF or that web page, whatever it might be. We're going to use a picture just for simplicity. But if it doesn't bounce it onwards, you need to have a link visible on the page, and this is how that text will appear on the screen to your browser, your visitor who's scanning the QR code. Now let's just take you on for another look at what we're going to be doing. So you've got somebody who's going to be scanning your QR code. They're going to be wanting to access the information, so they're scanning the QR code, and week 1 they'll be sent to the destination number 1, which in our case is going to be this picture of the front cover of the book. And then week 2 we're going to be bumping the learner onwards to the second destination, which is the back of the book. And so we've got 2 files. We've got pic1.png and pic2.png. So I've got them set up in my folder, and you'll need to have 2 images or 2 files that you want to use for this exercise. So we need to make sure that you've installed FileZilla. This is FileZilla, and remember I was talking about whether you had a 64-bit or a 32-bit PC, and if you've got Mac, then obviously it's just one version, and if you're using Linux, then again it's 2 different versions, and you need to know which operating system, whether it's 64-bit or 32-bit, that you've got. When you've opened up FileZilla, there are some things that you need to be able to prepare. So to begin with, we need to go to the top left-hand corner here, and we need to set up your destination. So it's a bit more complex, this is, and so this will take a little bit of getting used to, and it might help if you actually watched an online video of how to set up using FTP protocols. In some ways this is actually quite similar to being in Windows Explorer, and you're going to be moving a file, which is your target destination file, from your local drive onto your website drive. So step number 1 will be to create a site. Step number 2, we need to select new site, and then step number 3, we need to give that site a name. Step 4, we need to select the protocol that we're going to be using, which is SFTP protocol. We need to give our site name, the address that we're going to take the user to, and then step 6, obviously we need to have your username and password in there, and then we need to connect to it. So I'll quickly show you how to do that. I'll bring in my site manager tool for this is FileZilla here, and this is a live version of FileZilla. So we've clicked on that icon in the top left hand corner there, and we've got new site. So I'll click on new site. We'll give this site a name. We'll call this test site in this case, and we've got file transfer protocol here. So you need to know what your host address and your port is, and if you see here you've got some options. We'll just use explicit FTP over TLS, okay, and then your username and password goes in there, and then you'll just need to connect to it. Okay, and I'm just going to cancel that and just bring in my already connected FileZilla. And you'll see here, this side of the screen, when you've opened it up, this is my local side, and over on the right hand side, this is my website side. So a bit like Windows Explorer, where you can transfer one file from one part of your computer to another part of the computer. This is from your computer over through to a network, and you can see that I've already done it here. So here is my local drives and my local files, and here are the two pictures that I want to transfer over, and over here this is where they already exist. So I'm just going to delete these so that you can see that this is being done. So I'm just going to delete those, really delete them from the server, and I'm going to have pick 1, pick 2 and pick 3, and the QR code divert, and we're just going to drag that over to this side here, and you'll see it just takes a few seconds. So I've just copied those files over to there. So my QR code divert, that divert file, which is our notepad, we're going to change this address to tell week 1 that when the QR code is scanned, it will go to that page there, and that page there will then say, right, this week we're going to go to picture 1, and then on week 2 it will say divert you through to picture 2. So when you've got your images in place on your website where you want to have them, you need to tell the QR divert.htm file, which is this notepad file that we have been talking about earlier. We need to put the address in the URL line just here, and I'm going to put in HTTPS because my site has got a secure address license, and the www.zucan.com, and the folder that it's in, demqr folder, and it's pick1.png. And if you have a look on the right hand side here, you can see this is the Zucan folder, the zucan.com website, and in the folder demqr, you can see demqr is there. Here we have the two pictures. Now this is an old version at the moment, and until I save this version of it and place it and overwrite it over here, then this will be going to wherever it had been previously set by default. So we're just going to change the address here and making sure that this address says exactly the same. This is the text, as I said earlier, this is going to appear on your visitor's browser page. So they both have to say the same thing. So let's just make sure when we save it, it goes to the right place. So I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to put in the local file location that I want my QR code divert.htm page to end up at. And although it says save as file type.text, just ignore that so long as you've got .htm on the end of your file name. So let's click on Save, and we're going to replace what was already there because we've obviously changed the address of it. So my file has ended up here in my talk files there, and that location there is the same as this location here. And if you have a look here, you can see that I'm adding that file. Let's just refresh this, so make sure that we've got the right folder. There we go. So 12th of April is the day that I'm doing this, and it's 11:19. That's the time in the UK that I've changed that file. And all we have to do, literally just drag that over there, and we get asked, do you want to overwrite it? And the answer is yes, we do want to overwrite it. So our QR code divert now is active, and it's going to picture number 1. So having transferred pictures 1 and 2 over onto my website folder and modified the qrdivert.html file using Notepad and have put that on the website, we now have to create a QR code that points at that file. Like we did created the Linktree QR code, we need to go back to qrcodemonkey.com and create the address that is that file there. So in my case it's zucan.com/demqr/qr_divert.htm. When my user scans that, they get taken to the qrdivert.htm file, and that file then bounces them on to either that file or that file depending on which week we're looking at. So let's go and do that now. So I'll just bring up qrcodemonkey.com. Let's drag the QR code monkey generator on screen again. You can see that's where my URL went to last time I was creating a URL. Remember, the last thing we did was we created an email. So let's just go back to URL again, and we're going to just paste in that address. If I just pull this out of the way, oops, there we go. There's the qrdivert.htm, and it's in the demqr folder, and that's the address for that file. So we just bring that back into view. Now I've set my colors back to being black again, and we've still got the logo on screen, and we've still got the little curves as they are. So we'll create the QR code that will work for taking the user through to the divert HTML file, divert.htm file. Create QR code. There we go. This is our simple QR code. I'm going to save this locally to my drive, and then I can distribute this on anything that I want to, whether that's a mug or a book or whatever it might be, anything printed that you might want to use. Just drag this out of sight again, having saved that, and let's just take you through to here, just have a look. So we've got our QR code. It takes the user through to our divert.htm, and week 1 it takes us through to picture number 1. And then if I take you back to this file here, and we change the address from being pick 1 to pick 2, and change this from being pick 1 to pick 2, and then we upload this divert.htm file into our website. So I'll just bring up FileZilla again. So again, we save the qrdivert.htm on our local drive, and we just transfer it over with the newly corrected address details there. Then when your user scans the QR code, they get taken to that QR divert page. That is now going to turn them off to, or send them off to picture number 2 this particular month afterwards. Let's go back to the slide here just to remind you, changing pick 1 to pick 2, or whatever your new address might be that you're going to have for your change date for your qrdivert.htm. Okay, so again, scanning the QR code takes you to QR code divert.htm, and now because you've changed it, it takes you through to picture number 2, and that's the back of the book in this case. So just as a summary, a QR code can be going to a single static site, and in some ways, even when they're dynamic, the QR code just goes to the divert page. It's the divert page that's actually doing all the work to divert the user when they're scanning the QR code off to whichever file or image you might want, depending on which week you're doing something different. So the QR code technically isn't dynamic in itself. The QR code is static. It's what's happening on the management site or on your website that makes it dynamic, and you can then change how you want it to behave. So that's it about QR codes. Thank you for listening. I hope that was clear enough for you, and hopefully you'll find being able to create QR codes and making them static or dynamic and adding them to your products an easy and useful thing.